SABC's international editor Sophie Mokoena. Nelson Chamisa responded to these statements and other issues ahead of elections in Zimbabwe.
Zimbabweans in South Africa, come back home, go home and vote. It's important. Change is an effort by all the citizens. Number two, we wanted to say those who can't come to Zimbabwe or go to Zimbabwe, let them encourage parents in the countryside, in the villages, to also go and vote for change. The third one was also to say, you support the polling station. We need polling agents at all the 12,000 plus polling stations, and that support comes from the citizens. It's a citizen effort, it's Citizens for Change, and we need to make sure that we win big, and it's a wide margin, it's a landslide, and change is in the air in Zimbabwe.
Mr. Chamisa, we saw the reports that your party was found wanting in terms of registration of candidates. How can you aspire to lead Zimbabwe when we saw all those glaring mistakes in terms of registering your candidates?
I'm sure you are listening to ZANU PF propaganda. We're not found wanting. If anything, we're found winning, because we won in a big way. We managed to field in all the constituencies, 210 constituencies, with candidates representing the CCC, the citizens. We also have managed to field in almost all the wards, 1,970 wards we have in the country, save for a few where we had glitches, administrative glitches, not our own, especially by ZEC, and we're challenging that in court. So we've done very well. ZANU PF would have wanted to make it impossible for us to register all our candidates by making us pay for presidential candidates $20,000 and for MP candidates $1,000. In fact, we paid close to about $250,000 in cash. ZANU PF thought that we would not be able to mobilize those resources, but we thank the citizens of Zimbabwe. They forked out, the resources that were required, and we've managed to defeat and shame dictatorship and oppression. We are so happy, we're so excited that we have managed to cross the hurdle of having representation in all the constituencies. It's a feat that cannot be achieved by any political party. Even ZANU PF, with the support of the state, we're struggling. We did it and we won.
How did you do it? Because there are also reports that you get funded by foreign forces or foreign governments or companies. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, Zimbabwean citizens are not foreign. They are the ones who are sponsoring, funding, and resourcing the struggle. It's a Zimbabwean effort, it's a citizen effort. And we are so happy, we are thankful to the Zimbabwean citizens. We have not received a dime from any government. In fact, we would not be comfortable receiving any money because ours is an indigenous effort, and we are happy with the commitment of the citizens to the project. That's why we are so grateful to Zimbabweans. And of course, ZANU PF are so shocked because they thought that we would be found wanting, but we're found winning, and we are happy with that. We congratulate Zimbabweans, we congratulate the citizens for continuing to support their project, and it's going to be a citizen victory. That's why now Mr. Mnangagwa and his team are in 6s and 7s. The only hope they have is to probably be a distant third with all the other political parties that are campaigning.
You have some of your members in prison as we speak. Some people are saying you didn't do enough to fight for Job Sikhala to be released. I mean, you can't have elections where some of leaders and member of parliament is still in prison.
I have always said, I'm Nelson, not Emmerson. Mr. Mnangagwa is the one who incarcerated Job Sikhala, not Nelson Chamisa.
And the government says no, the judiciary is independent.
So I'm not even the judiciary. So I don't understand how that becomes a Chamisa issue or a CCC issue. We are victims of oppression, and you can't blame the victim. We've done everything within our power to make sure that the rule of law is followed, to make sure that the path of peace is followed, because we've said peace is fragile. We don't want to destroy our country on account of politics. Let the justice system be accountable, and let there be rule of law, and let those who have been incarcerated be given the right to trial. Job Sikhala has not been tried, and we've raised our concerns. But we know that our prize is to make sure that there's change in Zimbabwe. So any diversion and provocation, we are not going to be tempted. And that is what the regime would have wanted us to do. But look, we've turned down the temptation to be reckless, the temptation to resort to anarchy and chaos, because we knew that that is what they wanted, and we're not set up unto that and falling for it.
When I spoke to former Minister of Information, Professor Moyo, he said the opposition is weak.
Well, if somebody gives their opinion which is wrong, why should I respond to wrong opinions? Facts are on the ground that the opposition is the next government in Zimbabwe. Facts are on the ground that all the by-elections we have had, 28 or so, we won 19 out of 28. The council election by-elections we had, out of the 149, we won 89 out of the 149. So where you see tatters, I think it's mistaking ZANUPF for the alternative. ZANUPF, perhaps it was referring to actually ZANUPF as the opposition, because indeed, come the 23rd of August, it is the opposition. And I can tell you that they're in tatters. The factions, ZANUPF is so divided, is weak, and I'm sure he was speaking on behalf of his party, ZANUPF. Well, I must say that we win not because the environment is conducive. We win not because the election is free and fair. We win against all odds, and we win because we are supported by the people of Zimbabwe. We won in 2018. Mr. Mnangagwa did what he did to try and subvert the will of the people. This time, we are not going to allow what they did in 2018 in 2023. We are going to win again, but we have to win with a wide margin, with a big margin. It's going to be a landslide. We are stronger, we are better, we are bigger, we are more organized, and that's why we have managed to field all our candidates in all the different constituencies and wards, particularly in the past nomination court. But more importantly, the conditions for free and fair elections are not there in Zimbabwe. SADC came and they saw that we have challenges around the voters' roll. As we speak, we have not had access to the voters' roll. The voters' roll that has been published keeps changing. People's names were missing in that voters' roll. It's a fight that we have taken. We also have people in the diaspora who have not been allowed to vote. In other countries, Zimbabweans or Africans who are in the diaspora have to be allowed to vote. In other countries, you'd find that the diaspora vote is not something that people have to demand. It's a right. You can't have a taxation without representation. You can't talk of citizens who are contributing through the diaspora in remittances not being given the right to a voice, the right to a vote. So all those issues, violence, banning of our rallies, arresting of our political leaders are issues that are on the table. But you must understand that Zimbabwe is not a normal environment. It's a complex environment because there's dictatorship. And that is what we are fighting. And that is what we know, that we will win against all odds. And I can tell you that come the 23rd, there's victory.
President Mnangagwa yesterday, when he was launching the ZANU PF manifesto and election campaign, he was clear that no one will govern Zimbabwe, only ZANU PF. What do you make of that statement?
Well, don't you know that even losers are bold? Even in the face of defeat. What would you want him to say? He knows the writing is on the wall. He has failed in all terms. The economy is tanking. You look at the inflation in the country, you look at the level of corruption, you look at the gold mafia, you look at the platinum mafia, the chrome mafia. He has his fingers in the pies of Zimbabwe. Everything that is going wrong, he's the author. So what would you expect from him? Of course, I can tell you that even Smith of the Rhodesian regime would say not in 1,000 years. That's what they do when they are in the arrogance of the incumbents. They say things that are not in any way reflecting the reality on the ground. Zimbabwe is in a very difficult situation. We're in the doldrums. We're in red. When you look at 5 million Zimbabweans who are in the diaspora, we are a headache to our neighbors. We're a headache to Botswana, to South Africa, to Zambia, to Mozambique, to Malawi. We need to correct this situation. And this is why we are calling on SADC to help us help ourselves, by supporting free and fair elections, supporting peaceful elections, supporting a credible election, and not supporting, blind solidarity to say, yesterday a liberator is still a liberator. Now, most of the liberators have become crocodile liberators, literally and metaphorically. They liberate in order to devour. And that is where we are. We need to be able to come out of this and say solidarity is important as African solidarity with the people of Zimbabwe, not the solidarity as a club of leaders or a club of governments. We must have a club of citizens.
Let's talk about the other candidate. I know that there are many candidates, but this one, because he is the former minister in the former President Robert Mugabe's cabinet. When there was that move to push out Mugabe, you were part of those who were pushing Mugabe out. And now he is contesting. What is your view?
Well, I'm not so sure. Who is this minister you're referring to?
A former minister, Kasa Kuwere.
Okay. Well, look, our view is very simple. ZANU PF is fractured. ZANU PF is in pieces. I'm only contesting against the factions of ZANU. We will defeat them. It doesn't matter. You know, even if you combine 1 million zeros, they'll give you a zero. So, yes, we are fighting against 1 million zeros, and I can tell you that they're of no effect. They are defeated.
He's saying that post-elections, he is going to work with everybody. In terms of your strategy post-elections, how are you going to unite Zimbabweans?
Well, we need a Zimbabwe for everyone. We need a great country for everyone. In fact, our thrust is to make sure that we unite Zimbabweans. Our thrust is to make sure that we reconcile Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe needs a leader. Zimbabwe doesn't need a dealer. Zimbabwe needs a leader who is motivated by the desire to lead and save everyone. As we speak, Mr. Mnangagwa leads a faction. He leads a party, a faction of a party. And what we need is a leader who is chosen by everyone, to be for everyone, and to give hope to everyone. So yes, we'll make sure that beyond the election, we'll bring everyone together and begin to talk about Team Zimbabwe, a winning Zimbabwe. We need a synthesis, and that synthesis is a conversation, a dialogue by all Zimbabweans about where we should be going. Once we've won, we build a winning team, and a winning team is obviously going to take all Zimbabweans who are willing to build our great country.
Will you be surprised if some of the people who are currently or who are known to be supporting you tend to support Kasa Kuwere?
Well, look, I will not be surprised. In fact, that's what democracy is all about, isn't that? It's election. It's an election. People choose whom they want. But, you know, we are going into an election where we have a track record. People know the track record of Nelson Chamisa. People know the track record because I've been in the inclusive government. We delivered, and we have done it before. Mr. Mnangagwa has been in government, and he has a track record. He has failed to deliver. And so are all the other factions of ZANU PF. They have failed, and they cannot come to give Zimbabweans the hope, the change. If they do so in promises, it's just but empty promises. But reality is on the ground, and people know that who is the best candidate, who is good for Zimbabwe, who is best for Zimbabwe. And I must say that we, as the citizens' leaders, are the best option and the best step for Zimbabwe.
What's your view about the patriotic bill?
Well, the patriotic bill is a desperate attempt by those in government to justify their mistakes, their omissions and commissions. You don't legislate patriotism. Patriotism is something that comes from a sense of pride, a sense of dignity, a sense of belonging, and a sense of people being proud of their nation. Now, it's not done by putting a piece of legislation. You do.
But government is saying it's because people are campaigning against the government, particularly the country, pushing for sanctions, collaborating with the foreign forces. What's your view?
In fact, government is the biggest sanction in Zimbabwe. And we have to remove all sanctions, starting with corruption, starting with government, starting with those who are causing problems and nightmares. You don't point at others. When you point a finger at another, you must know that four of the fingers are pointing at yourself. So government must be aware that they are the ones who have authored the mischief in Zimbabwe, the bad governance in Zimbabwe. As others would say, is governance stupid? Is leadership stupid? We must fix the leadership of our country. That is what must be sorted out. That is the greatest sanction we must fix. Then, of course, everything else will fall into place.
And finally, your message to Zimbabweans and also the international community, particularly the continent, ahead of this important election.
Yes, change is nigh. Support change in Zimbabwe. Zimbabweans are peace-loving people. They need the support of the entire world. They need the support of the region and the continent. Stand with us, fellow Africans. Support our initiatives. Support our peace effort. Support our call for change and our cause for change. And you'll never be disappointed. We don't want Zimbabwe to continue to be a headache for the region and the continent. We want Zimbabwe to be a refuge and a safe place for Africa to also come and to make Zimbabwe a giant in the economy, restore Zimbabwe as a great nation. That greatness of resources, that greatness of leadership, that greatness of citizens who have prosperity, who have opportunities, who have dignity, who have hope is what we want to restore and help us to help ourselves. That is the message to the international community. Don't give up on us. We are resilient, we are determined, and of course, we are willing to receive any support you can give us.